Hello and welcome to Talking Ball, brought to you by HP Poly. I'm Nicola Hume. Welcome to our new home. We are here at Red Bull HQ in Milton Keynes. We are going to be digging deeper into the Oracle Red Bull Racing team. We're going to be chatting to everyone within the team, not just the bosses and the drivers, but also people that build the cars, people that design the cars, everyone that kind of keeps everything moving smoothly on a day-to-day basis. Now, you can listen to this podcast in all the usual places, but also for the first time, you can watch the whole episode too. Now, I feel like we're starting this first episode with a bit of a bang. We are really delving into Red Bull's flying start to the 2023 season, and our first guest is, well, he's quite a recognisable face within Formula One and a linchpin in the rise of Red Bull from Formula One rookies to, well, World Championship winners. Please, let's have a round of applause for Team Principal Christian Horner.
Thank you.
How are you?
Very good.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. What a great entry.
But seriously, how are you? This is quite a brilliant start to the season. I mean, we are 3 races in. Red Bull have won every race, and you've had 2 1-2s. I mean, in terms of dream starts.
It's been the most successful start to a season we've ever had in our history. So to have won the opening 3 races, as you say, and a couple of 1-2 finishes, is beyond our wildest expectations, imagination. So it's been a great start to what is an absolute marathon of a season. So we're not taking anything for granted at this point in time.
Yeah, now I know it is a marathon, but also there must be a part of you that's feeling incredibly confident right now, surely.
I think I've been around too long to get complacent on anything. So there's always that nervousness of what's going to happen at the next race. And updates are coming through. These regulations are still relatively immature. We know teams are going to have developments coming over the next few races. So, things can change quickly in Formula One, and you're always looking over your shoulder.
Now, I know you're saying that teams could be bringing in new things all the time. So are there particular teams that you've kind of got your eye on at the moment?
Well, it's the usual candidates. I mean, the team that's really surprised us, I think that everybody so far this year has been Aston Martin.
Yeah.
They've made a great step forward, and Fernando has been driving incredibly well. And then Ferrari, Mercedes, they look like they're going to make a step at some point during the season, and then even teams like Alpine are showing real flashes of pace and form. So you can't write anybody off, and that's it'd be very dangerous to do so.
I mean, there are some teams that have struggled with the regulation changes. There are some teams that have had a bit of an iffy start to the season. So what do you think in terms of confidence, where you see yourself in 20 races time?
20, I mean, it sounds a long way.
It literally is 20 more races.
Look, we've just got to treat each race individually and give our best at every Grand Prix that we go to. And then the championship tables, I've always said, tend to take care of themselves. And so long as we turn up at each race, get the best out of ourselves, the drivers, the team, the reliability, the strategy, then the championship tables, as I say, they tend to deal with themselves.
Is there anything that's happened so far in the first 3 races that you are particularly proud of?
I think, going out and getting a 1-2 finish in that first race is always mightily difficult, particularly in the first Grand Prix of a year. And I think it's been an incredible winter for, the whole team. They've all worked incredibly hard off the back of last year's championship, with the handicap of the less aero time that we have and so on. So it's been a massive effort by everybody involved, and there's a real buzz around the factory. You can feel the energy, the positivity that there is just around the place, and results like we've had only fuel that.
Well, it seems like, the energy here at MK7 is quite phenomenal. You're walking around and you can see it is a team that's very, very proud of what they're achieving so far. Do you feel the same?
Absolutely. I mean, look, it's been a dream start for us. And I think, winning a Grand Prix is no mean feat. To win 3 of them in a row and have 2 1-2 finishes, that's a massive achievement for every single member of this team that work crazy hours, and the commitment, the dedication that goes in behind the scenes. Because at the end of the day, Formula One is the biggest sporting competition in the world. It's the biggest team sport in the world. And, it requires everybody to be doing their bit. And that's why, all the trophies in the reception area, many people walk past those every day on their way into work. And it just reminds them of, what we're all here for.
Is there anything, I know it has been a dream start, but is there anything that has concerned you so far in the first three races?
There's always something. There's
always allowed to talk about
reliability, is always something that is never too far away, particularly with these cars. We had some issues in the first race that we had to manage. We had a drive shaft issue with Max in Saudi. Obviously, Checo had a couple of issues in the build-up to qualifying. In Australia, so there's always little things that can disrupt your flow. There's so many things with these cars that are so complex that can go wrong, or the weather, or somebody crashing and a red flag and a start or a restart. So there's so many variables that you just can't control.
I mean, do you see those sort of things as kind of bad luck or just inevitable? It's a very long season. These things are going to happen.
Well, I'm a great believer you make your own luck, and I think that. The things that happen, they tend to even themselves out over the course of a season. But you've got to take your chances, and you've got to grab every opportunity with both hands. And you've only got yourself to blame if you don't. So it's about leaving no stone unturned. It's about all the attention to detail. And the higher you rise, the more people are shooting at you, and the more scrutiny you come under, the more pressure that you ultimately put on yourself. So that's the process that we're going through at the moment.
I mean, in terms of pressure, what do you do to relax?
What do I do to relax?
Yeah, it's a very pressured job that you're in.
Yeah,
there must be something that you do once you get home, kick your feet up.
Well, look, I've got some young children. I've got a 6-year-old boy, a 9-year-old daughter, and they keep me pretty busy.
That's not relaxed then.
It's not relaxed. My boy is Lego obsessed, so basically I become like a parts supplier to him.
That's
to
quite
put
nice,
together. My daughter is into ponies and horses and stuff. And look, I'm at heart, I'm a country boy, and I enjoy being out in the countryside. For me, that's time to sort of relax, switch off, get away from Formula One, recharge your batteries, and come back in for more.
Well, I mean, as we're recording this, we're kind of on a little break because there's been no race in China this year. So it's
you guys.
You're looking at me like
you guys all think no racing, it's a break. Everybody's on holiday. We're all taking it easy. Everybody relax. There's a month between the races, but it is white hot.
Okay.
In terms of activity here, because you got the first upgrade starting to come through.
Yeah.
You've got an awful lot of research and development going on behind the scenes. And of course, we're building a new engine for 2026 as well. And we're desperately trying to catch up. We're building it here. It's a startup new business that we've welcomed, 400 new members to the team in. And, we've started from scratch, and we had a V6, our first V6 engine running about 9 months ago. And we're building on that. So there's never a dull moment.
So, okay, as an outsider looking in, we see it as a break. It's not a break. You're not resting at all. Now, one thing that we're doing on this new version of Talking Ball is we're doing 100 objects. Red Bull Racing's 100 objects. So every guest that comes in will bring in an object that means something to them, that is something to do with their experience here at Red Bull. And I'm just going to take a wild guess at the object that you brought in with you to add into our Hall of Fame. I'm going to guess it's this baby.
Well, I mean, as you could say, here's one we prepared earlier. But look, I mean, this is the big one for us. I mean, this is the Constructors World Championship Trophy, and you can see some iconic brands on there over the years, Cooper and Van Wall and Lotus and Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, so many, great teams. And we had a run of 4 of them. I think they were around here from 2010. And then there was an awful lot of Mercedes badges after that. And then finally, we managed to get ourselves back on the trophy with that Constructors Championship last year in 2022. So very, very proud of this trophy.
Out of curiosity, who takes this back? Like who carries it around? Like when it came to traveling on the plane, was it you hugging it tight?
This is presented at an FIA prize giving at the end of the year, and the team or the driver is not officially champion until the trophy has been handed over. So it's always a big moment at the end of the year. And the trophy was handed over, and I brought it back to Milton Keynes.
Brought it back to Milton Keynes.
You get it for 12 months, and then it has to be returned to the FIA for them to inscribe on whoever is going to be the next winner, and you get to keep a replica.
Is the replica the same size?
Is it the replica? Is
that the real one?
That's the big question.
Oh, don't.
Who has the real one?
I'm pretty sure that's the real one, because we had to have someone bring it in with gloves on.
But what do the FIA have at the end of the year? Do they have the replica or do they have the real one? How do you know it's the real one?
That's a really good point.
Exactly.
So the one that you have, is that a replica or a real one?
It's probably a Mercedes replica.
So, okay, this is officially item number one.
This is officially item number one.
Item number one of our 100 objects, Raiming high. We're going for 100 because
super.
Why not? So you joined Red Bull back in 2005.
Yep.
And 18 years it's been. How on earth did that come about? Racing has kind of been your whole life, from karting, etc. So how did you end up sitting in this seat right now?
Well, racing, as you say, has been my entire life. I started racing in go-karts, and then I progressed into car racing, into Formula Renault, Formula 3, Formula 2. And I started my own team in what is now Formula 2, and was racing against Helmut Marko's team, actually, at the time. And I went on to win that championship for 3 years in a row, 2002, 2003, 2004. And I was looking to take that team into Formula One, and Bernie Ecclestone was pushing me, saying, "Look, we need new young blood in Formula One. I want to get rid of this guy Eddie Jordan. He's driving me mad. Why don't you buy his team? I'll help you." Blah 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 blah. And so I looked at trying to put a deal together to buy what was the Jordan team, and at the same time I was running a Red Bull junior driver, Vitantonio Liuzzi, that Helmut Marko had placed, with me as a, who was looking after the Red Bull Junior program. And the Jordan team, the deal just got more and more complicated. And in the meantime, Red Bull looked to buy what was the Jaguar Formula One team. And they acquired it in November 2004. And later that month, Helmut rang me up and said, Dietrich would like to see you. And so I went to Salzburg, I think it was early December. And he said, "Look, I want to change the management. I've got big ambitions with this team." And it was so compelling what he was selling. He said, "I want it to be different. I want it to have a different energy. We're not going to be corporate, and we're going to do things differently. We're going to do things a Red Bull way. And I'm willing to take a chance on you." And at 31 years of age, it was I didn't have to think too long about it. And he said, "Look, because I'm giving you the chance and you're young, I'm going to pay you this much. But for every point you score, I'll pay a healthy points bonus."
Okay.
And Jaguar scored 9 points last year. So if you score 10 or 11 points, that'd be a success in the first year. And in that first year, I think in the first race we scored 9 points, and there was a different point system in those days as well. So and then we went on to score 34 points that year, and it was, thank God we did. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to pay my mortgage. But, and look, he gave me the chance, just as he gave young drivers a chance. He gave me a chance as a young team principal, and he supported me, the team, and there was some difficult times in the early days as we were going through a building phase and changing the culture and trying to get the right staff on board. And Adrian was a key one of those at the end of the first year at Red Bull. I remember saying to Dietrich and to Helmut, "I think we've got a real chance of getting Adrian Newey." I've been talking to him throughout the season. And
that was a big punt. I mean, he was at McLaren at the time.
It was,
yeah.
And it was a matter of persuading him and his then wife, and David Coulthard played a role in it because he obviously knew Adrian, having driven at McLaren and at Williams when he'd been there. And but something just clicked, and he and I got on really well, and we just had a similar outlook on on things. And it was phenomenal to get him on board, and then suddenly people started to take us seriously.
So your relationship between you and Adrian, would you class yourself as kind of mates, workmates, have a little WhatsApp group kind of thing, meet up for some beers when you've had a good season?
I wouldn't, we're not of a WhatsApp generation, but
oh no, he's paper and pen.
He's pretty handy on WhatsApp. He's an emoji specialist. But look, obviously we're work colleagues, but we're friends, and the friendship is incredibly important. He's godfather to to one of my children, and that's very important to me. And we've been together a long time now, and we've always enjoyed working together, and I've always had a very strong friendship.
So in terms of turning Red Bull from the party team, as it kind of started off, to the team it is now, what have you managed to do? What do you see as your main overlook of things over the last 18 years for you to be able to achieve that? Because they weren't being taken so seriously right at the start, were you, until now?
Well, look, when we turned up, we played our music loud. We turned up with a hospitality center that we called the Energy Station. It looked nothing like anybody else's. It was free for anybody to get in. You didn't need 200 passes to even get through the front door. And things were different. Things were just very different about Red Bull, and people perceive that these guys aren't serious. They're not here to win. They're here to have a good time, and not they've got no aspirations. But it was very, very different to that, because actually we were just as determined as any other team. It was just that we weren't afraid to have a bit of fun along the way and express ourselves differently. And that hasn't changed. We still are the team that play our music the loudest. We're absolutely a pain in the ass to who is ever next to us, because for sure, and some of the mechanics' choice in music is a little bit dubious, these days. But we're just very...
No Spice Girls.
We're very, very different. As a team, we've got very much a can-do mentality, that no challenge is too great, which is we'd never be making our own engine. If that were the case, we'd have never achieved anything that we've done in Formula One. And we've got a real sense of team, that everybody is working for each other, that there's no I in team, that it's about a collective effort. And the one thing that everybody has in common is the car. And how that performs on a Sunday afternoon at 23 weekends of the year, that's what we're all invested in.
Now let's talk about the drivers. So there is I would say, a particular skill that you have in terms of choosing your drivers and choosing correct pairings. When it comes to finding a driver, what, apart from being fast, what else are you kind of looking for?
Ideally cheap. But the two things don't come together very often unless you get a really good junior driver, which we've been incredibly successful at developing. Young talent, whether that was Sebastian Vettel, whether it's Max Verstappen, whether it's Daniel Ricciardo, Carlos Sainz. There's so many examples of young talent that Red Bull has given an opportunity to. But of course, when you get to Formula One, the pressures are different. The scrutiny is different. And, we've had some great drivers that we've worked with over the years. I'm very proud that many of them have come through our young driver program.
Well, it seems like sometimes if a driver is doing particularly well, when it comes to the fans, the fans will kind of go against them a little bit. So let's talk about Seb Vettel. Yeah. So back when he was dominating, at the time, the fans were a bit, he's a bit taken over the blood. And then when he retired last year, he retired as a legend.
I think everything evolves in time. Sebastian used to win. He'd get out of the car and he'd shove his finger in your face with this really annoying habit he had of showing this one finger. And I think whenever you have serial winners in any sport, I think it's easy to lose that popularity. And Sebastian was a very private person. He didn't give anything of himself personally in terms of emotionally, or he never let people see really who he was. And I think as he got older, he got more comfortable with expressing himself and people seeing his character and his values, and they became, to love that, and he became hugely popular by the end of his career. And I think Max is a very, very different character. He wears his heart on his sleeve. You just know. I mean, he's got a lion painted on the top of his helmet for a reason. He drives like a lion. He's got a lion's heart, and he's immensely talented. And you just know he's going to give 110%. And it's great to see wherever we go around the world just how much support he has, how much Checo has. But of course, in different countries, there's different allegiances to different drivers.
How does it feel as a team principal to have both of your drivers right at the top of the leaderboard right now? Like, is there a little bit of pressure on you to kind of go, oh, you do what you've got to do. Oh, no, wait, you do. Oh, no, you kind of have to battle it out at the same time. Like,
no, it's great. Having both at the sharp end is exactly what you want as a team or as a team principal. And I think that you just become very conscious then about just making sure that both have the same opportunity, because you want it to be about what they do on the track, which is, there's no number one decided driver in any contract that we've ever had. It's always been about what they do on the track, and that's the way we want it to be. And so we are scrupulously fair in terms of the way that we treat the drivers, in terms of the upgrades, how they're distributed, the parts, the weight of the parts, you name it, even to who drives out the garage first for a qualifying session, alternates from weekend to weekend.
We have to talk about Daniel Ricciardo.
Yep.
How is he settling in?
Well, it's great to have him back. We didn't want him to go in the first place. So he went off on his life experience, through a couple of different teams, and certainly the last couple of years, we haven't seen the real Daniel. I mean, when Daniel drove for us, he was right up there with the very best and one of the best racers. Some of his overtaking moves were legendary.
Yes.
And we didn't really see that over the last couple of years. And Daniel would have been out of Formula One if we hadn't given him a lifeline. And it just felt that it was too soon for him to be calling a day on the sport. So, and for such a big personality, I mean, he's the kind of guy that lights up a room when he walks into it. So it was great to get him back in a different role this year. And for him, I think, to also start to try and fall in love with the sport again, because I feel that he'd lost that passion through the experiences that he had. And he's a really sensitive guy, and behind that big smile, he's very vulnerable. And I think that the experiences that he had the last couple of years, you could see it took its toll on him and his enthusiasm for the sport. And certainly when he first came back, it wasn't a Daniel that we recognized.
He was driving differently.
He was driving differently. He looked different. He'd lost a huge amount of weight, and he was almost he'd lost that self-confidence, that self-assurance, and bit by bit, that's coming back, and we're getting to see the true Daniel again, the true spirit, and his performance is getting ever more impressive.
Do you have a plan for him? Is he going to get any FP1s in or anything like that for this season?
He won't be doing any FP1s, but he'll be doing some tire testing for us, and any opportunity like that. And to have a driver on the bench of Daniel's quality and caliber is phenomenal for us. Should God forbid we ever need to call on his services, it's just great to have a driver of his quality available to the team.
Do you know what else I find is really nice? What I've noticed, especially on social media and stuff, is having Daniel around, I think, also brings out the best in Checo and Max. It's like their personalities have now also come out even more, that Daniel's around kind of bringing it out more.
Well, he's a big energy guy.
Yeah.
And I think Max learned a lot from him when he was here in the early years. And I think, look, Daniel, he's performing a different role this year. He's doing a lot of marketing work. He's doing a lot of work on the simulator, and in the development of the car and supporting over Grand Prix weekends. And I think having his energy around the two drivers, it makes them feel more at ease. It's less awkward between the two of them, particularly when the two of them are competing against each other. And they both genuinely like him, because he's just that kind of guy that you can't dislike Daniel Ricciardo.
So when it comes to like a normal season, obviously this season has been a fantastic start for Red Bull, but it's not always the way. Have you ever come to a point where you've faced a moment of a wall, if you will, and you've managed to crash your way through it and absolutely smash it out of the park, but you've had that moment of adversity that you've overcome?
We've had so many. I mean, and that's Formula One. It's the most competitive sport in the world in that, when we came into the sport, we had to fight to get into a competitive position. We did that in a relatively quick amount of time, joining in 2005 and winning by 2010. Within a 5-year period, we turned the team into a championship-winning organization. We then had 4 really successful seasons. And then a big regulation change for 2014. And the engine that we had, we just couldn't compete against our opponents with. And that was really tough for everybody in the team for an element that we couldn't control. We were unable to compete. And then heads start to drop and you can end up in a downward spiral very, very quickly. But we managed to stop that and be able to focus on the things that we could control. And in doing that, we were able to win races in every single season bar one in the intervening years at circuits that would suit the characteristics of our car or opportunities that we were able to grab. And then once we got a competitive power unit that Honda provided for us, suddenly we're back in the hunt, we're back in the game, but with all that hunger and motivation to get back into a winning situation.
Is there anything in particular that you are looking forward to this season? I'm going to take a wild guess and think that you're really looking forward to Vegas.
Well, yes and no. I mean, Vegas is going to be a crazy race.
It's going to be
racing down the strip in Vegas on a Saturday night is just going to be insane. Yeah. And the amount of interest that we've had in that race is totally unprecedented. I've never known a race so hyped and so much interest as there is in Vegas. For me, it's a different kind of landmark there. I turned 50 in the Vegas weekend. So, I mean, if you've got to turn 50 and you've got to do it somewhere, Vegas is not a bad place.
Yeah, but you're working.
It's not a bad place to do it. So
he wants to be working on their 50th. But Vegas.
It's only a number at the end of the day.
Fair enough. Right. Well, so we are getting Red Bull fans to get in touch with questions for our guests. Yep. So I do have a list of questions here for you. This is from Lisa in South Africa, who says, what were your thoughts on all of the red flags and restarts at the end of the Australian Grand Prix?
Well, it was frustrating. I felt that, there didn't look like there was that much debris on the track. I think if a safety car had have been kept out there, they could have cleaned the circuit and we could have got a couple of laps of racing underway, as we've done in previous races. But it felt a little trigger happy to red flag it and then restart just for a lap or two where the sun was low. There was only ever going to be one outcome, and from a restart like that, and unfortunately we got it.
And this question is from Nimish in India, who says, Mr. Christian Horner, that's a really polite start.
It's very polite.
Mr. Christian Horner, how do you instill confidence into the driver after a run of bad results or a crash and give them the confidence that you trust them and that the team is with them?
Well, Mr. Nimish, I think it's a matter of just talking openly and honestly with your drivers or engineers or any member of the team, because confidence is a key factor in any sport or in any walk of life. And I think that that's something you have to feel for yourself, but you have to feel that people have got the confidence and support around you. And I think if you feel that, then it's more probable that you're going to deliver to your highest standard, in that knowing that people have got belief and faith in you.
And this is from Thanishka, also from India. How do you stay calm during the race? I mean, we've discussed how you kind of relax when you're at home, but
I mean, look, in the race, it's so consuming. There's so much going on. It's like being in a very busy air traffic control center. There's just information constantly coming at you. So you're trying to digest all the information. There's certain screens that I have in front of me that I'm following very closely, whether it's the race plot or the sector times or the race trace of exactly where the cars are on the circuit. And of course, you're communicating with the key people, whether it's the head of race strategy, head of race engineering, our sporting director, and of course back with the factory in Milton Keynes that are providing information and options. So it's very much like a military operation, and there has to be discipline in that, and it's something that where time just flies by, and I think experience helps, but you're far likely to make good decisions with a calm head than being hot-headed and making emotional decisions.
Because it's quite interesting sitting here talking to you now, because you actually are just speaking at exactly the same level and exactly the same pace as you would during a race, which I find quite impressive. You're just very calm all the time. You're just a very calm guy.
On the outside.
Oh, okay, fair enough. That's fair enough.
So, but I think we're all very British about it, really. I mean, there's the Italians, they shout and scream and they get a bit more emotional, or everybody has a different character. I think British as a nation are a little bit more stoic.
Yeah. And this final question is from Sophie from France, who says, what are the 3 words that you would use to describe your 18 years at Red Bull?
3 words?
3 words.
I'm not going to use any swear words.
Well, don't do that.
My time at Red Bull these 18 years has been amazing. It's been hugely rewarding from working with so many great team members and so many great members of the team. And it's been extremely fulfilling in realizing your goals and ambitions of winning world championships, winning races, pole positions, fastest laps, and then managing to do it for a second time round as well. So they're probably the 3 words I would pick.
Here's my final question for you. If you weren't sat in this seat right now, what's your backup plan?
Well,
what would you be doing if you weren't here?
There was never a plan B. So I would be probably unemployable, or working. I'd probably be working outside somewhere. I enjoy the countryside. I enjoy being outside, but I have no idea. I had no ambition outside of being involved in motorsport. I wanted to be a driver, and that I was honest with myself. I was okay, but there was lots of drivers that were okay, and I was too in love with the sport to let it go. So I thought I'd just apply myself into another area, and that's exactly what I did. Is
there a part of you that watches drivers now and you're itching to get back in the car?
No, none at all.
No,
absolutely
not even a little bit tempted on a sim or something.
It just feels like such a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then when you see the speed of these cars and how physical they are, and how brutal they are on the drivers, there's nothing in me that desires to get back in one.
That's fair. Now, our friends at HP Poly have sent us some audio, so we've got a bit of a challenge for you. So if you want to pop in your wireless headphones for us, thank you very much. So we're going to play you 3 clips. Now you get a point if you can name me the driver saying the message, the race it was said at, and the year that it was in. So we're going to play you clip number 1.
Okay.
We have to remember these days. There's no guarantee that they will last forever. Enjoy them as long as they last. I love you guys.
Well, the driver's easier, Sebastian.
Yeah.
The when and the where are probably slightly harder. So,
which race and which year? Otherwise, you don't get any points if you just.
I would say it's after he's won his world championship maybe in 2013, which he did in India. So that's probably what I will go for.
Oh, you're so close. I feel like I want to give you half a point for that, because that's really impressive. It is Seb Vettel, and it is 2013, but it was the US Grand Prix. You were so close there. Half a point.
Half a point.
Yeah, I'm in a good mood. It's fine. Right, clip number 2.
Hi, Grace. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Well, it's Danny Kvyat. The question is, where did he crash? Because he had a few of them. I would say that was in 2016, and he had a mighty crash in Sochi in Russia. So I would probably go for that.
I can't give you a point for that.
You can't give me anything.
You got the driver right, but it was
driver.
2015, and again, it was the US Grand Prix.
He crashed there as well?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right, there's your third clip. Here we go.
Was that a good race or was that a good race? You tell me.
Christ. Okay, it's Max Verstappen, but when he says, was that a good race, he's won, 37 Grand Prix for us so far.
He's had his fair share, yeah.
They've all been pretty decent. I would say, I remember him saying it, I think, last year. So 2022. I think maybe Miami.
Again, I'm going to give you half a point.
Okay.
I'll give you half a point because it is Max, and it was 2022, but it was Azerbaijan.
Oh, there you go.
So you got 2 half points. You got 1 out of 3.
That's not.
That wasn't so bad. But thank you very much for joining me. That's all the time we've got, I'm afraid. It's been a pleasure to chat to you. Good luck for the rest of the season, and hopefully I'll catch up with you at some point later on. And that's it for this episode. Make sure you join us next month, where we're going to be chatting to legendary designer Adrian Newey. See you next time.